This is going to be, we're going to call this Intro to Trackman. All right. My name is Josh Conway. Little background on me. I'm from Smithsburg. I live here in Middletown. I went to Coastal Carolina, played 3 years there. I got drafted by the Cubs, played 5 years there, went through some injury stuff, got released, got back into coaching, went back to Coastal, and then luckily was lucky enough to get hired by the Orioles kind of right at the regime change. Spent 4 years there, and then once I left there, came here, started doing this full time. So I was able to get my feet wet with Trackman while I was at Coastal. Um, just kind of learning the ways of coaching rather than playing, and then was able to take that knowledge and apply it into with the Orioles and learn even more from them. So let's get rolling on this. So good on this. Yeah, what is Trackman, right? So Trackman is just going to be this little box up here. Okay, so it's a Doppler radar system that reads ball flight, pitch speed. I think it's like 27 different metrics that it picks up, if not a little bit more at this time. But you can use it for hitting, use it for pitching, use it at both. You can do both. So it's a lot. You can do live BP, live ABs, and all that good stuff. So all that stuff is done here as well. As far as why we're using it, we're going to use it to develop players, to evaluate players. I think there's 270 plus college teams that use this. So if you can get on this, you can send that information out to colleges. They know what they're looking for. They know what they're looking at. So it's just a good way to expedite some of the recruiting process. So you don't have to just kind of shoot out to all these events. Maybe save some money a little bit. Not that those events aren't great. They're obviously good for exposure, but this is kind of a nice way to kind of do it like in an at-home setting. As far as pitch tracking, ball flight tracking, is anyone familiar with any of this stuff? Have you guys ever been on it? You shaking your head? Yeah. You know a little bit of it? Okay. There's other companies. There's obviously Trackman. There's going to be Rapsodo, Pitch Logic, Yacker Tech, and then I believe in the big leagues now they have Hawkeye. Hawkeye is going to just be a different setup than this. Again, this is a radar system. Trackman or Rapsodo is going to be, that's the one that sits on the ground. That is literally just taking pictures of the ball flight and then calculating what's happening, where Trackman is actually reading what's happening based on the system. Hawkeye is going to be 27 different cameras, high-speed cameras that are going around a big league stadium, and they're going to be using all that information to put that together. They also Hawkeye will also do like player tracking, so like where players are moving throughout the game. There's biomechanical information that you can pull from the pitching perspective. There was a pretty cool article last year about Adam Wainwright, where he sat down after a start, noticed that his stride length had shortened. So that gave him a chance to get back to his bullpen and lengthen his stride back out to sharpen his stuff back up. So again, that's just some competitors of Trackman. I know it doesn't really matter, but just so you guys know, there's more than just Trackman, but Trackman is obviously one of the top options, especially for portable unit like this. In the major league setting or minor league setting, I believe the Orioles had two they have two portable units in the major leagues. They have two in Florida, and they have one at each affiliate. So that's like they got like 10 units that they're pushing around. So again, this is going to help expedite player development, help expedite pitch design, any type of ball flight stuff from the hitting perspective as well. Yes.
Do you mind if we ask questions while you're moving along, or would you like?
Yeah, let's just hold them off for the end. Yeah, and then we'll go through that, and then if I'm gonna run through like a quick live demo as well, so you guys can kind of see it in action. All right, so today we're just gonna go kind of like the basics from the pitching perspective. That's kind of where I live. So first couple metrics I'm going to look at are going to be velocity, induced vertical break, and horizontal break. So how the ball is flying up and down and left and right. Vertical approach and horizontal approach angle. So what angle the ball is coming in, whether it's flat or whether it's steep. The tilt, kind of how the ball is moving in a two-dimensional and a three-dimensional space. And then spin rate and efficiency. So how well the ball is spinning through the air. All right, let's move on. Okay, first thing, velocity. It's very important. It's really important. Obviously, it's not the end all be all. There's a lot of things you have to do to be a complete pitcher. Velocity just kind of it buys you, it just buys you room for error, honestly. 94 at the top of the zone is going to be a little bit different than 87 at the top of the zone. It also makes the pitcher or makes the hitters have to make a quicker decision. Not that we're just selling out for velocity, but it does help. It does make your other stuff better. It just makes the hitter have to make a decision faster. Let's move forward here. I know you probably don't like hearing that. All right, induced vertical break and horizontal break. So this is going to be how the ball is moving up and down for induced vertical, and then how the ball is moving left and right for horizontal. So induced vertical break. So if we look at this chart here, so we're going to see two different lines here. Okay, so the first line is how the ball, or one is going to be how the ball out of hand, how it's perceived as moving, and then the one above that is going to be how it is actually moving with gravity in play. So hitters sometimes will see this pitch here, this dotted line. They assume that it's going to be on the lower end of the zone, but because of the way the ball is spinning, some other metrics that get involved, the ball actually stays on its line and stays up. So we hear about like the rise ball, right? The ball's not rising, it's just fighting gravity. It's not coming down, right? So again, if you're a hitter and we think that we see that ball and we assume that it's going to be here, we're going to have our swing plane there when in fact the ball stays up on its path, okay? So that's how we're going to use that to our advantage. And then that's going to be with four-seam fastballs, top spinning curveballs. Again, anything really up and down that we're looking at. From the horizontal standpoint, it's going to be a little bit of the same thing, understanding where the ball is perceived as going and then how it's coming off of that straight line. So again, you'll see sinkers, sliders, a little bit of curveballs or sweepers, pitches that are moving in and out. Okay. Let's see. Next is going to be the approach angle, like we talked about. So this is strictly going to be the angle that the ball is coming in and where we should potentially use that pitch to have its best outcome. So if we look here, this is going to be the vertical standpoint. So we talked about induced vertical break. So if we have a flat fastball at like -4, right, we see that we should use this kind of at the top of the zone. Okay, again, because the angle will not be coming down, it's actually riding flat. Okay, so those are the balls that kind of look like, again, like they're rising, but they're just not coming down. At the bottom of the zone is going to be more of like your steeper throwers, you guys with sink. They're going to want to live at the bottom of the zone because the angle that it's coming down is going to be working down through the zone. From a left to right standpoint, again, this is catcher's perspective, so imagine a right-handed pitcher's throwing. So we're looking at arm side run this way, and then we're looking at cut or sweep on this side. What we understand about the horizontal approach angle is going to be, if it's closer to 0, that means the ball is just kind of coming in on a straight angle, right? Where if we're going to be -2 or -3, or a -2 or +2, that's where the ball's coming in kind of at this angle and then working away from there. And that has obviously to do with a little bit where we set up on the rubber, and then arm slot, arm angle, all that good stuff. All right, now we get into kind of the fun stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at tilt. All right, so let's actually start over here. Disregard all this for now, and then we'll get into it in a second. This is a break chart, so it's going to be showing how the ball is just flying through the air. It has nothing to do with location. It is literally how the ball is spinning and how it is moving through air. So anything above the horizontal line is going to have backspin. Anything below it is going to have topspin. From a right-handed perspective, anything to the left is going to have sweep, and anything to the right is going to have tail. From a lefty, it's just inverted, okay? Everything switches, okay? So these are fastballs up here. Lefty fastballs will be over here. Lefty curveballs, or sliders, cutters will be here. Changeups and curveballs will be here. I'm sorry, sweepers and curveballs will be over there. So if we're just looking at this, right, we talked about induced vertical break. So that's going to be your fastballs, okay? So how much flight are they getting through the zone? All right, so we talk about backspin. We want the balls to be on a 4-seam. We want the balls to be high. We want them to ride through the zone. 2 seams are going to have a little more sink and tail, so they're going to be over on this range. Changeups are going to have a little sink and tail as well, fighting gravity, working down away from the ball. This is going to be a cutter-ish pitch, okay, with a little bit of backspin, a little bit of side spin. This is going to be more of our traditional or rifle spin type slider, meaning that it's going to be short and hard, Okay, this is going to be the new one that everyone's throwing, right? The sweeper. Okay, or probably people called it a slurve like 20 years ago. So the curveballs are going to be in this range, and obviously any of you guys who follow like tread and driveline and all that stuff, like there's like a death ball now, and there's there's other weird names for pitches, but essentially they're just curveballs. They're just different with different profiles. This black dot right here, this is going to be where we get into our tilt. So the black dot's going to just represent gyro spin. Okay, so we talked about backspin, top spin, side spin, either way. Gyro spin is going to be to look like a bullet. Okay, so the ball completely spins this way and it goes in this range here. What happens here is gravity just pulls this ball down. Okay, so when we think about backspin, ball is backspinning, air is hitting the ball, going under it, allowing the ball to carry. Okay, top spin, ball is top spinning, allows the ball to sink or drop. Okay, side spin, if we're going one way, it kicks. If it goes the other way, it kicks the other way. That's going to be Magnus force. That's a whole thing that I'm not going to get into. But gyro spin is just going to be that bullet spin that is going to, the air hits it and disperses. So it really doesn't kick one way or the other unless there's tilt involved. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that real quick? No, we're good? Okay. So that's going to be the third dimension of what we're looking at. If we look at this tilt chart, that's going to have our two-dimensional chart. It's strictly how the ball is spinning on an axis, okay? So on a two-dimensional clock. So we look here. Again, this is going to be a right-handed perspective. Okay, so about 12 to 130-ish, that's going to be a four-seam fastball. That's going to give us this type of movement profile. Okay, we're going to get two seams that are going to be in this range here, and it's not logo, or there's no logo here, but that's okay. But we can understand that it's going to be this range with a little bit of side spin. Change ups going to be 2 to 3. They're going to be down here, even sometimes down in this range. All right. Cutters, again here. We see the tilt is now going the opposite way. Okay. A bullet slider, a gyro slider is going to be more like 10 to 9. Okay, and that's going to be more backspin and some tilt. Whereas the sweeper, we're going to look at just legit side spin, and we're going to have a little bit of seam effect there. Curveballs, anywhere from really 8 to 6 to get the top spin effect on the ball. Okay. All right, let's move on from there. Did I miss anything? Nope. Okay, so let's get into spin rate. Spin rate is just going to be how fast the ball is spinning per minute. These charts just represent kind of where guys are in their averages or in the top percentages for MLB, NCAA, and high school. Okay, so it does differ by age group. All right, so if you come in here and you get on this thing and your fastball is a little bit below average here, it's no big deal, right? We got time. We're going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. And as we get older, those numbers will climb. Okay, and that just goes throughout. We can kind of see throughout.
Sorry, Jeff, can you go back 1 second?
Yes.
I guess you change up on that.
Yep, change up's right over here. Yep, change up for high school average is going to be 1600, right? And obviously these numbers are going to change based off of pitch type. Okay, so fastball, four-seam fastball, we want them to spin. We want to get the most out of it as best we can, right? Sometimes it doesn't happen, but ball flight can help with that. Change-ups are actually going to be, so you see where we're lower, much lower on change-ups. We're actually trying to kill spin to help kill carry or velocity to get more sink and tail. Curveball, again, we're looking for a lot of spin. Slider, we're also looking for a lot of spin. Cutter, we're looking for a lot of spin. Sinker, we're looking for low spin. Okay, so anything that's kind of kicking from a arm side standpoint, we're trying to maybe kill some of that spin, so we don't get the carry on the ball, so it sinks and tails. All right, and this we'll get into efficiency and spin efficiency in here in a second, but that's going to be dictated as well based off how the ball's moving. All right, so spin-based tilt. So this is now what the Trackman is going to be spitting out for us. Okay, so let's run through this real quick before we get into this. Again, total spin is just going to be how much the ball is spinning on its axis. Active spin is going to be what percentage of the total spin we're using to actively use in that pitch. Okay, so that's going to be that will change based off pitch type. This is an example of a changeup, so we obviously want this to be lower than our fastball. Again, the gyro spin, the gyro degree. So this ball, if this would be 0 gyro, pure backspin, this would be 90 degrees of all backs or all gyro. So this one is kind of just slightly tilted, and then most likely they're throwing a two seam here. And we could see here the angle that, or the tilt that we're creating is going to help that ball kick arm side. So this is where it gets a little bit sciencey. So this green number here is going to be the measured tilt. So this will be essentially the two-dimensional version. Okay, so what the ball is, how it's being read right out of hand. So it's read as it's spinning at 145. So this spin here. But because we add the third dimension of gyro plus these seams on the ball, it's going to actually have the ball react at a 3 o'clock tilt. And that's where we see the sink and tail. Okay, so if we threw this at 145, it would have backspin and be a little more flat run. But because of, again, seams and gyro, the seams will kick the air and deflect it certain ways and actually shoot this ball more to 3 o'clock, which is going to be more sink and tail. Okay, does that all make sense? Real quick.
Did you go over efficiency already?
Efficiency is how well the ball is spinning on its axis. So 100% would be no matter what tilt the ball's on, the two-dimensional tilt, no matter what the tilt is, that is how well it's spinning on that axis. And what causes it to kick off that axis is going to be the gyro degree.
Oh, okay, so if efficiency was 100, gyro would be
close to 0. Yeah. Closer to 0. Yeah. And we'll go over some videos here, and I'll show you some examples. Basically, on a 4-seam fastball, we want the efficiency to be above 90%. If it's around 90% or below it, that's when we tend to kick guys to 2 seams, because the ball isn't spinning as well, because you're kind of moving it with your wrists. So then we're using basically the pitcher's profile to get him into profile rather than trying to force something. Any other questions there? Good? Yeah.
Can you go over what the gyro is again?
What is it?
The
Gyro. So gyro is just going to be the third dimension of how the ball is spinning, right? So again, the two-dimension version is going to be just how well the ball is spinning or what direction it's spinning, like on a clock. All right, gyro is going to be the ball kind of tilting, turning, like the Earth, right? So it's turning on its axis, and that's going to affect the axis and how the air is hitting the ball. Make sense? Okay. Good. Can I cover this already? This is going to be the observed tilt, which is actually how the ball looks. Okay, so the measured tilt is, again, how it's coming out of the hand. The observed tilt is going to be what it looks like, what's actually happening. So here's a quick example of this. We can kind of see. So I'll give you, before I hit start, this is going to be a back spinning ball. This is going to be a ball with slight gyro tilt, and this is going to be a ball with full gyro, okay? So what we'll see is we can see the line that it's going to be on, right? So what this will show is the 4-seam fastball is going to be flying through the air, and again, it's going to have that hop to it. It's going to ride high on its line. The gyro one is going to be killed a little bit, so it's going to kind of dip a little bit, and then this one is basically has no effect on anything upward. It's going to be pulled down by gravity, and we can see where it finishes. It's actually a pretty neat little depiction of what's going on here. And I'll run through this a few times so we can see, right? So if we want to start on the back spinning ball, we can see how it travels through the air and has some ride and lift. This is that kind of half gyro spun ball, and this is the full gyro spun ball. We just see through its line, it just loses carry and loses life. So to your point of, if this was a 4-seam fastball with low efficiency, we'd probably potentially go to a 2-seam. Because this ball, we think it's going to travel, but what happens is it kind of just dies right into the barrel. We don't want that, because that's not good. And then this one obviously just will get crushed. Unless it's a slider. We'll be okay. We good on that? Understand? Cool. All right, let's move forward. This is where it's kind of fun. This is what Trackman interface looks like, okay? Does anyone want to be brave and kind of try to explain this to me? What do they see? What type of fast? So four seam being red, what's his fastball do? Yep. Yeah. Does it have arm side run? A little bit, right? A little bit. Okay. Would you say that it is good rise or bad rise? I guess we didn't really kind of go over that. It's good. Yeah, the higher the better, right? I think big league average at this point is going to be like maybe 16 or 17 inches, right? And again, that's all going to be dictated by your arsenal. Okay. So his two seam, right? That's going to be the orange one. Okay. What do we see about that? This was on the screen. This is the example that's on the screen. Does his two seam backspin or side spin? Backspins, right? So his two seam really isn't, it's flat. It's kind of flat, but he throws it harder than his four seam, so he likes to throw this because it's harder. At times, he gets it to sink and tail, which is great, but we haven't gotten to that consistent point yet. The last time I saw him, he kind of came home for a quick bullpen while the team was on the road, and he went to more of like a one seam grip, and it started kicking down here a lot more. So I'll see if that's what he has gone to. How about his changeup? What's his changeup looking like? The green. How would you guys profile that? Rising a little bit, right? Right. So it's actually perceived as sinking, right? Because it's not rising, right? How about, so it has sink and tail, right? Is what that looks like, and we'll see it here in a second. How about his slider? Sweeper, bullet spin, traditional. What do we think?
I guess you would expect a little bit more. I guess that's a slider.
This one's kind of
above. It's staying above zero.
Right.
In the examples, I thought maybe the sweepers were below zero.
Yeah, they were kind of right around this 9 o'clock run. So he has some that are down there. This is kind of caught in between. He'll try to sweep it out to here, but on this day, it was kind of a shorter version of a sweeper. So closer to a traditional version. And then up here, this black dot, what do we got this? What are we calling that? Call that a cutter, right? Because it's got backspin, but it also has, it's going to kick to the left. So that's going to be the one that tilts for him, kicks off. So again, that's going to have a little more gyro spin, which is going to kill how much it vertically rises. Okay, so let's look at these examples so we can kind of get an understanding. So this is Zach. Well, just watch the ball flight here. This fastball here looks like it is on a frozen rope, right? Almost like it's climbing. Right? So again, hitter's going to think that's middle. They swing, they either clip it because they missed the barrel or they swing completely under it, right? So that's going to be a fly ball type pitch, a pitch that you can use at the top of the zone for that specific reason, right? Because we're going to swing and the hitter thinks it's here, but it's here. Or we can also use that at the bottom of the zone because the hitter might give up on it thinking it's going to be down, and then your catcher pulls it up, and that's where we see a lot of those frozen takes down because he thinks maybe the hitter perceives it as going down, but it holds its line and catches the bottom of the zone.
Is the movement profile determined by his spin? Could the profile be the same without good spin?
Yes. Yeah. But I don't know why. I have no idea why. Like there's guys who have really low spin with like a ton of hop. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not.
So the spin complements that.
It all, yes. That's the thing. It all kind of complements each other, right? So there's not like one specific reason why it may be doing that. There's angle, release height, like his stride, all that good stuff. So all this stuff just kind of comes into play and creates the profile. So when it comes to like the development aspect, we got to understand, hey, if we change something with him, we may kick one thing off and it may affect the entire spin of something. All right, so let's go on to this next, this two seam, right? We see it's a little bit flat. Oh, that's the four seam again. Come on, go to the next one. There we go. We can see it's two seam harder, right? Like we said, but flat. So it has more lateral run, more side to side run, because it has more backspin. It's not sinking like we've seen on some of the this changeup videos with Grayson and Dean. It has a little more flat run. So he has to be very, very careful with where he uses this pitch. He's got to be very specific with the location.
Is that horizontal movement pretty consistent?
Yes. Yeah. But the backspin is also very consistent. So he always backspins it. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So, but he likes it. It's more comfortable for him. That's why he's kind of kicked to that one seam to see if he can create more sink, to kind of play around with that seam orientation. All right, this is going to be his cutter. This is newer this year. So this essentially becomes either a cutter or a hard traditional version of a slider for him. Part of the reason we did this because he lacked changeup, so we really wanted to focus on adding a changeup, and then his curveball was kind of crappy, and it kind of blended in with his slider. And we'll see his sweeper actually kind of looks like a slider visually, but the profile is more 9 o'clock. Because if we look back here, one thing we see about Zach is he has nothing that really top spins. He's got nothing below these lines, right? That's why adding this changeup was really important for opposite hand hitters. Opposite hand hitters from the right-handed side, we're looking to use depth and hop, so more of a vertical approach. From same side hitters, we're looking to use more of a side-to-side approach, but can still use top to bottom because it's the same side. We have a little more wiggle room. So to lefties, he can throw his four seam, his cutter in, and his changeup. And to righties, he can use his four seam, he can use all of his pitches really, but he'll probably stay away from the changeup because it may run back into the barrel. Because again, it has the side-to-side approach. All right, so where were we down here? We saw cutter.
Again?
Yeah. Where's the thing? There it is.
I mean, so I have a question. So the horizontal movement there,
Mm-hmm.
visually, just as a coach's eye, I look at took off pretty good to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? What you said? Do you feel like the 3 inches or 4 inches?
Let's look at his slider, and then you can
I mean, it was subtle. It was
make that
definitely more subtle
here.
than the breaking level.
Watch this slider, and then make that decision.
Yeah.
So
Cutters always just look like they have more movement, but the reading is always like really subtle and small.
yeah. So that's going to be gravity is in effect here, right? So that's why, this pitch, this doesn't look like a curve or a slider. It looks more like a curveball or a slurve because gravity is pulling the ball down as it goes. Where were we? Let's see this change up. So pretty good movement there, just kind of a bad spot for him. Kind of left it right in the middle. And then let's see. That's going to be it. Any questions on any of that stuff? You want to shoot back to your question in the beginning? Did I answer it?
Well, let me. I guess I'll go to questions about what we were just covering right there.
Yeah. If there's any slides you want me to revisit, I'll just kick back.
Oh, you could just go back to the last slide.
Okay. We'll be on time. Oh, we're good.
So for this person, just because we're looking at it, but generally, how do you look at changes in the release height and release side, like where and how they're releasing the ball with respect to their different pitches, and are you? Seems pretty consistent, right?
Yeah, so I didn't go over this. I'm sorry I missed that. So this is going to be a release side and release height. So we can see that all his pitches tend to just lay on top of each other, right? So this is another great tool for seeing, like, hey, for instance, Nick Bellato, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He used to throw a curveball, but he throws from like here, but all of a sudden the curveball went to here. And it's like, Nick, we either need to throw it here or we need to bag it. So we went to just a slider. Just say he stayed hard slider from then on. And then from there, he started playing with like a grip change to create like a short one and a long one or big one, to create a little bit profile change or velocity difference in the two, because he didn't want to give the hitter any indication of like, here comes curveball, because good hitters essentially will just go, okay, oh wait, yeah. So we can eliminate that. If it's coming out of this window, we'll eliminate it unless it's 2 strikes and I got a battle. I'm glad. Good question, because I completely whiffed on going over that. Where's my mouse? All right, let's get back to this changeup. Maybe. How did I lose my mouse? Oh, there it is. Sweet. So this is the curve or the sweeper again. And again, this is a 12 inches of movement, so that's a pretty good amount of movement, but he has the ability to run it out to like 16 at times. So this is just him. So 10 o'clock tilt on that is going to be what's maybe causing this movement to be a little shorter, because it's back spinning more than he probably wants it to. If you can get a little more side spin and kick it down to like 9 o'clock, then it's probably looking more towards the 16 plus. Some guys run it out to like 20. It's pretty impressive. And he holds velo on that pretty well.
So how did you capture this like frame? So you had your phone.
Yep.
Your phone back there.
Yep.
And is it synced with the Trackman? And
yeah.
Then, okay, so that's like what the mobile app displays.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So like if Zach wanted to, I could send Zach these clips exactly like this, and I can pick whatever's on here. I think this is the default one. Usually I add the vertical and the horizontal approach angle. And he can just package that, put it in an email and say, like, hey coach, interested in going here. Here's some information on me. Let me know what you think, or let me know of any camps that I can may attend, blah, blah, blah. Right. And do that whole thing.
And just for reference, like, because you guys are members, like, you could just text me and say, hey, we want to go Trackman bullpen, and I'll set it up. I'll do all the stuff with the camera set up.
Yeah.
Knock it out. Simple.
So I guess in your experiences, I mean, me personally, like, I love gadgets, but I've also found that it can be very distracting in, like, you know, for a routine, right?
Sure.
Like in your experience for, you know, youth athletes, whether that's, you know, 13 or 16-year-olds or whatever, what type of, I guess, how often would you sample somebody with a Trackman to just kind of be able to track either their development or where they are?
Yeah,
like that?
I think that just depends on the player, on kind of where they're at as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I usually won't use this for like anyone younger than high school, just because those numbers are going to change, because the kid could come back next week and be like this big. And as far as like the strength aspect of things, I like using it like Zach. When I see Zach, it's on all the time. I use it every single time because it's more of a coaching tool for me. And when it's on, that's what it's for me. It's not for the player. It can be for the player if they ask the right questions. But I don't want them to get immersed in the data. I want them to kind of run through their bullpen and feel some things out. And then if he throws a good one, I can be like, hey, what'd that feel like? Or, hey, did you feel like you got around that ball? Yeah, I did. Okay, well, that ball died. So now we can kind of just have instant feedback, instant conversation based off of what we're seeing. I think from a player's perspective, like I said in the beginning, it allows them to kind of know who they are. So it kind of takes the tinkering out of things, right? So like Zach always says, like, I want to throw a curveball again. It's like, why? Like, why waste reps on that curveball when we can get your cutter better? So we could always revisit and say, like, okay, throw one. And then he usually throws it like up there. And I'm like, that's why we're going back to so throw me a cutter here, right? So I think for me, and how I've always used it and how I'm going to continue to use it, is I use it as a coaching tool to help expedite the player development, right? So if someone says like, hey, I want to try a 2-seam here, yeah, we can try it, but like, here's facts on why this thing maybe doesn't work for you, and let's get back to what's good for you. Hopefully that answered your question. Cool. You guys got anything? You're quiet. No? Nothing. This is a lot. Don't get me wrong. This is a lot of information, right? It's a lot of information. It's useful information. Like I said, it's from a coach's perspective, and as the tool is being used, it's more for me. It's more for me to help you get better, and then explain to you maybe why we need to go one direction or the other. With the Orioles, it was always like I had this iPad right at my feet for every game, and if he throws a pitch and I look down on my chart, then I could say like, okay, his slider tends to look like this, but today it's looking like this. I can walk over and be like, hey, what are you feeling? I don't have to tell him what's wrong, but I can ask him like, hey, how's your slider feel today? And he can tell me like, yeah, it's kind of crappy. I feel like I'm getting around it. And that's something I can make a note on. We can revisit it the next day when we're going over our video session. We can see how the profile was that day. We can go back and see what his work was that week. Like, hey, how much time did you spend on your slider? Well, I was trying this new curveball grip, so like I kind of neglected my slider, and yeah, here we are. We lost reps. So it just kind of keeps people on track. There's no more gray area. There's no more black. It's pretty black and white as far as like, this is who you are. This is how we're using this. If we want to adjust something, let's try it. We'll get instant feedback on it.
One of the bigger things too is that Josh mentioned in the beginning is that almost 300 colleges have access to this. Looking at these numbers, and some of these coaches are really, really into how they recruit players based on what they see, what they like, maybe even what they like to coach, what they perceive. So having access to this and pulling numbers is important. Even if you're not being coached with them like Josh would, just having the access to create them is relevant for these college coaches.